Welcome.
I've waited my entire life.
From the makers of Dynasty Warriors, it's a game with a subtitle I can't pronounce. It's, oh boy, it's Trinity, Souls of Zill O'll. It's Trinity for the PlayStation 3. Released earlier this year, Trinity is an interesting game in that it's deceptively uninteresting. That is to say, it has lots of ambition, lots of dialogue, lots of familiar Tolkienian clichés, and a lot less substance. Despite all its self-proclaimed grandeur, this is a hack-and-slash action game that gets old after just a few missions. You play as a young warrior named Arius, a skilled swordsman, and a half-elf. He's haunted by a memory from his childhood, when he watched his father die by the hand of an evil Dark Lord. That memory drives him to this day, and as he hones his skills as an arena attraction, he longs for the day when he'll have his revenge. So obviously, there isn't a whole lot going on here you haven't seen before. There are elves, there are swords, there are magic attacks. And for all the content that's packed within this really massive quest, it's all very familiar. The environments, the characters, and especially the gameplay. So you play the game with what is essentially a 3-button setup, each of which does a different attack. Mashing them in random combinations performs more powerful attacks, and you can swap the button functions with different maneuvers as well. But the key in Trinity is that you're not fighting alone. You're joined by 2 other characters, each with their own set of skills and attributes, and you can swap between them in battle. Now that sounds like a lot more diversity than it really is. In practice, it all kind of feels the same. You're just hammering buttons, running around, and trying to get the camera to keep up. The differences between the characters are the standard big bruiser, fast girl, average guy setup. So in both concept and execution, it's all pretty vapid. So the gameplay and the premise aren't the most original things in the world, but Trinity does provide an impressive amount of sheer content. There are lots of missions to take on, and the best thing about the game is the way it implements some light RPG elements into its otherwise boring structure. You can talk to people at taverns and accept new missions from the guild, and in terms of the gameplay, there's a satisfying experience system used for leveling up your characters. What you're doing isn't very involved, but the framework around it can be. And that's the reason Trinity is still a fun game to plow through. It can be a real time sucker, albeit a pretty contrived one. So it's kind of like you want to level up and keep killing things, although it's not a whole lot of fun and you'll have no idea why. Now, unfortunately, the game isn't very good looking either. Trinity uses a parchment filter, which you've seen in a lot of other games, and it's cool, but it's a little heavy-handed at times. I guess that's their way of obscuring the game's otherwise dull graphics. There's no room for beauty in war. Or good voice acting, for that matter. This is terrible.
How should we proceed?
If he attempts to interfere, then he must...
Now, this isn't a great game, and frankly, it's not even a very good one. But if you're into action games that really try to be epic and even have some RPG DNA, this really isn't a bad option. I mean, provided you don't mind some overdone themes with your overly simple gameplay. It's Trinity, Souls of silly subtitles.